Welcome to DBD 101, it's Miss Alichu, and today we're going to learn how to counter Vecna as it just came out, and it can be a bit overwhelming at times. So, here are some solid tips on how to counter the Vecna. Let me briefly explain his powers before we get into the gisting. I know you're impatient, but it's really crucial that you understand how his powers work. So, he has 4 different powers and have long-ass cooldowns. 38 seconds to be exact. He's got the Big Ball, which reveals your location to him to Killer Instinct. And you might not notice, but it cancels the magic frame items for a whole minute. Next, we have the flight ability, which allows him to keep high for 4 seconds, up to 4 seconds. And he can vault windows or pallets with it, but he can't directly fly onto higher ground. And when I say higher ground, I mean the hills or the haystack by the harvester in Coldwind Farm, for example. Next, there's the skeletons who simply injure you whenever they come into contact with you. And lastly, there's the big, scary Mage hand who can either reset the pallet or blockade for 4 seconds. Also, there are chests in the game to help you with his counterplay. These chests give you magical items like gauntlets or boots that will help you counter one of his 4 powers. Anyways, let's talk about the juice and loops. So let's start from the most simple to the most complex. It's big. That's what she said. But slow. It's big, but slow. So if you have the item to show you the sphere, you can easily avoid it. Furthermore, it's only Killer Instinct, not our reading, so your location won't be as exact. But this means that you can't hide in lockers or you can't use distortion. Here, it's mostly the item that will carry you. You can't do much about it, but also keep in mind that many Vecnas completely fuck up their sphere, so you're fine. While there's a magical item that allows you to see skeletons, you can simply rely on the sound cue. You can easily dodge the skeletons by crouching, but be careful because when you do so, you get slowed down, and therefore you allow the killer to get closer to you. Now, a good Vecna is more likely to use his skeletons when you're stuck in animation, just like a huntress would hit you with a hatchet when you're vaulting or dropping your pallet. This is for you to assess. If the Vecna is good and you've seen him pulling the tricks, you know that you can take a risk and crouch in front of the vault. Vecna's flying is not as much of a threat as you might think. Now, your biggest asset here is knowledge. This item allows you to see him whenever he's flying, and that is huge information, especially in the Swift. On top of that, his flight ability is quite hard to navigate and you can abuse that. Let me explain. Instead of running in a straight line, try running in circles. It will confuse him and it will be really hard for him to keep up. Now, of course, Vecna can end his flight early if he wants to, but he always has a downtime where he can't auto-attack. And you're going to abuse that, especially by windows. If Vecna vaults a window or a pallet, it has to automatically end his flight. And usually when he ends his flight, his collision gets a bit weird and you can vault the pallet or the window back. So abuse that as much as you want. This is his strongest ability as it's an amazing anti-looper. You can see when he's selecting a pallet because it'll be glowing purple. Now of course you can try and get a stun on him, but chances are you will just block the pallet before you can do so, and you'll get hit. The key counter here is to pre-droppare I palettini. To be more precise, you need to pre-drop early while there's still some distance between you two. If he hits you after lifting up the pallet, it means that you were too close and that you didn't pre-drop early enough. Pre-dropping early forces him to use the Mage early, and chances are you can make it back to the pallet before he can hit you. This is great, it basically recycles the pallet and gives it a second life. But be careful, there's a little downtime whenever he resets the pallet so that you can't infinite stun him, right? Just keep running, don't stand there hoping to get a stun again because it won't work, you can just body block the pallet. Now remember, these are just guidelines. You have to assess every game how good the killer is and exploit different playstyles, but my best tip here still is to play Vecna yourself. Because trust me, when you get run for 5 gens by the blue hair in here, you learn very quickly what your weaknesses are. Finally, I want to mention 4 add-ons that can catch you off guard. The first one being Iridescent Book of Vile Darkness. It blocks windows whenever you flies over them for 45 seconds, and the skeletons will be flying lower to the ground, which means that you cannot crouch to avoid them. Now, counterpart to this is that it has 2 skeletons instead of 5. Second and third add-on are cooldown reduction add-ons, so it might seem like it's irrelevant, but it's not, because it can quickly get its spells back. More than you think. It's 38 seconds base kit, but with those 2 add-ons, which will be what most Vecnas will be running, in my opinion, you might get surprised by how quickly he gets his powers back. And the last add-on is Vorpal Sword? Injured survivors that enter the sphere scream and get broken for 30 seconds. But what interested me here was that whenever he uses his Mage hand on the downed pallet, he breaks it instead of lifting it up. Alright, that's all for today, class. I hope you found it useful. Don't forget to do your homework, like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye, Angel. Mwah.